We're mic'd up again right here before the NBA draft with ESPN 1420's Scott Prather. You can follow him on Twitter at Scott_1420. Scott, we know the Pelicans have the 51st overall pick. They don't have a first-round draft pick. That was shipped for the Boogie Cousins. What does New Orleans do at 51? Do they keep it? Do they trade it?
If you look at the last 20 years, the odds of someone on the last 10 picks even playing in the NBA is less than 50-50. If you look at just the last couple of years, everybody drafted between 50 and 60, either played overseas or in the G League or was on a two-way contract. So you like to think of the outliers like a Ginobili or an Isaiah Thomas, but that's so rare. So I think the likely odd is that they trade it for cash considerations, or maybe they ship the pick to somebody with $2.6 million is the most they can ship with it, along with Alexia Jensen's contract, because I think, which we'll get into, trying to unload some salary in working out a potential deal for Boogie Cousins, I think is the primary focus. I think you don't go into this draft if you're the Pelicans saying, we got to take this player to get better right now. You're thinking, we get better right now by trading this pick.
Yeah, and freeing up some cash so you can sign someone. And one of those people, one of the main people, is Boogie, trying to re-sign him. You give up so much to get him. Is re-signing him just a no-brainer?
If you don't re-sign him, what's the next option? And you could go through a number of things, and we could get into potential sign-in trades, which I know is popular, but I think would actually be a bad idea, because if you're going to do a sign-in trade, well, then you let him go, and suddenly you're still going to be in the luxury tax for a player that's probably not as good as him. Or you sign some mid-level guys, but are you actually better than you were a season ago? It's not often you have a player, yes, there's risk, right? He ruptured his Achilles. But at 27, with his recovery, the move is to re-sign Boogie Cousins. And I think that is, people talk about Rondo and things like that, and that's all important. But the number one thing on the to-do list this summer for the Pelicans is to re-sign DeMarcus Cousins.
Do you think the fact that the Pelicans looked better kind of without Boogie Cousins at the end of the year than they did with him at the beginning of the year weighs in any of this?
I don't think so. I think that before he got hurt, they had won, I think, 8 of 9. They were really starting to click. You had me on before the Portland series, and I talked about how great of a matchup it was for New Orleans. So you can kind of get tricked into thinking, oh, well, they're better without him. I don't buy it at all. I think when you can have a quality starting all-star on your team, you do it. And if you want to think, how do we get potentially beyond the second round? How do we take a next step? I don't think you can do that by just adding a couple of mid-level exceptions as opposed to a Boogie Cousins.
LeBron James stakes. Everyone wants a little piece of,
sure, why not?
Of the king, right? I'm of the opinion that basketball-wise, New Orleans is one of the best fits for LeBron James, especially if you pair him with Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday, and you get rid of Cousins and you ship Cousins. Is there any chance in your mind that LeBron ends up in New Orleans?
No. No. It would be great, right? It would be great. You could package some deals, Mirotic, Moore, a number of your expirings, non-guaranteed. Salary-wise, you could actually make it work if he opted into his, I think, almost $30 million contract. But he's not going to do that. He's going to opt out. Maybe he ends up back in Cleveland. Maybe it's in L.A. But as much of a basketball fit as it is, a listener asked me, he said, do you think if the Lakers had the Pelicans roster, LeBron would sign there? I said, oh, it'd be no question,
Slam
like
dunk.
100%, right, slam dunk. But the Lakers, they have the cachet. They have, it's in L.A. And New Orleans is a great city, but, the Lakers are the second most valuable franchise in the NBA. The Pelicans are last on that list, albeit they're worth $1 billion, but it's still last on the list. They don't have the history. They don't have the cachet. As much as we'd love to say, laissez LeBron temps roulé, it's just you can dream big. It's not going to happen.
That billboard was priceless.
Epic.
That was a great-looking billboard, a fake billboard, but it was a great mock-up.
You could sell a lot of shirts like that if he signed, man.
Yeah,
a whole bunch.
Absolutely. Well, and all the talk about LeBron's post-career, does he need L.A. to really get that post-career thing going? He already has so much connections in L.A. already. Does he just need to get there already?
I think LeBron can go anywhere, and post-career he's fine. He's LeBron James, He's kind of already built an empire in a lot of ways. So the LA thing, as far as, big city marketing, Hollywood, I think the NBA, what we've learned the last couple of years is that you can do that wherever you are as long as you're a superstar. I mean, yes, LeBron was in Miami for a few years, but if he had been in Cleveland his entire career, I don't think he would have been a bigger superstar because he was in LA. It can help some guys. I mean, DJ Mbenga was a backup center that spent 1 year in New Orleans, but he was with the Lakers, and when he was there, he had a publicist and all this other stuff. I'm like, he's like the 15th guy on the roster. So I think if you're not a superstar, you know, if Nick Young had never been with the Lakers and had always just been with the Bucks, maybe Swaggy P isn't a thing. Maybe he doesn't date. I can't think of the whatever her name is, but it's not coming to me. But he dated, you know, this pop star, Iggy Azalea. You're right.
That's
so he dated her for a little while. You know, so I think for the non-superstars, that market can make you a bigger name. It's certainly in terms of marketing dollars. But if you're a bona fide superstar, you're gonna be like that anywhere. And some say, well, wouldn't Anthony Davis be bigger here or there? I think Anthony Davis, when all is said and done, is could he make slightly more money in an LA market with advertising or a New York market with advertising? Yeah. But it's not like he's struggling. You know, it's not like we need to drop a pot roast off at his house. Like, he's doing fine. He's going to get a giant contract in a couple years, and hopefully it's with New Orleans and he can stay there.
He wouldn't mind some crawfish, though.
No. He actually doesn't like seafood, which is, you know, we got to work on that. He's a Chicago kid. He likes the deep dish pizza.
We've talked a lot about how New Orleans struggles to bring in high-valued targets and high-valued assets in free agency. Let's say, obviously we're assuming LeBron doesn't come. Let's say Boogie walks too. They can't maybe get Paul George. What is the Pelicans' next focus? I mean, in a lot of ways, people think they're a lot closer than maybe the average fan does.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult to Boogie walks because I think this team is willing to go into the luxury tax if it means they're going to be considerably better. And I would never expect you to hear, oh, the Pelicans are paying $15 million, $20 million in luxury tax this year. It would be a few million. They would try to avoid the repeater. You know, the Knicks have spent $250 million in luxury tax in the last 16 years. The Pelicans haven't spent any. So they've avoided it, but if Boogie signs elsewhere, that's why I think a sign and trade probably wouldn't happen. I don't think they want to go into the luxury tax for a bunch of mid-level guys. So your option if Boogie leaves, maybe you bring in, I mean, they're not big names, right? Maybe if players opt out, like a Rudy Gay opted out, so there's an option. A Danny Green, you know, guys that can certainly help your team, but they're the kind of players you would say, well, you want to add that guy after you sign Boogie. You know, the chances, and that's again, I think, why it's so important to re-sign Boogie Cousins, because your opportunity as a franchise like the Pelicans, you have to either draft a superstar or trade for one. And then hopefully they like it there and they, you know, it's all warm and fuzzy and they decide to stay. But in terms of luring a top-tier free agent that has no ties to the state or the city, even if you're a team built to, I think contend is a strong word, but be in the upper echelon of the league, which the Pelicans, their trajectory is pointing that way, you just don't get that opportunity the way a Knicks team can just stink for a while and still potentially lure a big-time free agent. So the options outside of Boogie are a lot of guys that are veterans, names you recognize, but, you know, a Trevor Ariza, right? I mean, but he's 32, and he's not exactly Boogie Cousins in terms of the potential. Those are the kind of names you're thinking about. You know, a Brook Lopez, who's way past his prime, has an injury history. These aren't names that are getting
Pelicans fans at home all excited.
Correct. And I think this idea of, well, you let Boogie walk because you're getting better, I don't think you are. I think they showed a lot, but to really take that next step, you need to go all in and try to make this thing happen right now. Because if 2 years from now you're trending downward, AD's going to leave, and then you're back to being kind of in the Siberia of the NBA.
Final question: what is the best case, realistic scenario for the Pelicans this offseason?
I think the ownership group commits to potentially going into luxury tax. I don't think Boogie's going to get a 5-year max contract. It'll probably be a 3-year deal, close to a max, maybe a 3-year max, and that third year will probably be a player option. That's been my opinion for a while on it. And once you do that, now you bring back Rondo, then you look for a sign and trade, somebody to really help you on the wing at the 3 spot. You unload a Jensen's contract. You have a lot of non-guarantees. So you can make the numbers work. I think the best realistic scenario as far as the Pelicans taking a step next year is bringing back Boogie Cousins, praying that, okay, this Achilles injury, he's recovered from it, and then, you know, the trend that was going upwards with Mirotic, with Rondo, with Holiday, who was first-team All-NBA defense, with AD, who was an MVP candidate, you continue that cohesiveness. That's, I think, the best realistic case scenario. As much as you want to dream about LeBron, I think that's the best realistic scenario, and I think it's going to happen. I think ultimately, you know, Boogie has said he wants to be on a team that appreciates him and contends. The Mavericks may offer more, but they're not exactly contending for anything right now. And I don't know that anyone is other than the Warriors, right? But
maybe wherever LeBron goes.
You're right, exactly. And then wherever LeBron goes, but he's still going to have some trouble beating Golden State. So that's the most realistic scenario, and I think it's probably going to happen.
He's Scott Prather, ESPN 1420. You can catch him on the Great Scott Show Monday through Fridays at 5 o'clock over on ESPN 1420. Scott, thanks for joining us.
You got it. Thanks.